Okay, welcome everyone. I am State Senator Shelley Mayer of the 37th Senate District in New York. It's my honor to be here co-chairing this Zoom webinar on new ways to think about retirement with Leo Assen, the state president of the AARP New York. We have some fantastic speakers tonight about how to deal with what I call active retirement. And that is retirement where we are still fully participating in the life of our community, our family, our personal health, our mental health, our physical health, and we are engaged with others in an active way. So I'm going to speak briefly about some of the guests we have, and then I'm going to turn it over to Leo to introduce AARP and his role. I have a question though. Do we want the interpreter to be such a large picture? We are very thrilled to have ASL interpreters in all of our programs, as well as a Spanish language translator. English Spanish translation is available here, and we have some wonderful people. We're very appreciative for ASL, Jenny Mosiman and Tanya Northcraft. And it's our Spanish translators, Patricia Alcivar and Isaac Askenazi. So with that, let me just say a little bit about retirement in COVID, and that's what prompted me to put this together. During COVID, I saw firsthand in my district, so many of those age 50, 55, 60, or early 60s, who might otherwise not have been ready to retire, chose to retire for a variety of reasons related to COVID. And in fact, in the third quarter of 2020, about 3.2 million more boomers, that's those born between 46 and 64, of which I can say I am one, reported they were out of the labor force due to retirement. That is about 3 million more than was projected nationally. And why did people retire? Either to take care of loved ones who needed caretaking, either children or older people, because their job was ended by a layoff and they were able to survive without the income, or decided that they would get by without the income, or because their job was moved to another location, or because they decided that the needs of their family or their community required them to step aside and participate in a different way. So it's quite obvious. And here in my community, which runs from the Bronx border in Yonkers, all the way up through the Sound Shore, up to northern Westchester and Bedford, I saw repeatedly so many people choose or get out of the labor force and enter retirement. But are we really prepared for retirement? And do we know what it really means? I don't think I did. And so I thought we would have some excellent people. So let me just let you know who's going to be speaking tonight, and then I'll turn it over to Leo. So we have Sally Pinto, the program director of the Yonkers Nork, and Lisa Goldberg, executive director of At Home on the Sound. They're going to talk about different models of aging at home or in place. Krishna Brodigan from the Westchester Library System, talking about library resources, which are very rich in our community. Eric Churches, who is an attorney on the fundamentals of estate planning and ensuring you and your family are protected. Colette Phipps from the Westchester County Department of Senior Programs and Services, which is a dynamic agency, very involved in ensuring seniors' voices are heard. And Angela Katz, staying active in your senior years, physically, mentally, and being part of a wellness plan for yourself in retirement. And when we get to the end, we will have about 15 minutes for questions. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Leo Assen, presently state president of AARP New York and member of AARP's Volunteer Advisory Council focused on policy. Let me just say Leo Assen was a senior executive at Self-Help Community Services, and for many years led the Seniors Community Division, which provided services that included affordable housing, senior centers, case management, and community guardianship, as well as he led Self-Help's technology, public relations, and government relations activities. Previously, he was a senior executive of Donaldson, Lufkin, and Jenrette, and he received an MBA in financial management with distinction from Pace University. But for today's purpose, I'm so pleased to have him as a co-host, the president of AARP New York, Leo Asson.
Well, good evening, and thank you, Shelley, for that introduction. My name is Leo Asson. I'm AARP State President, and that is a volunteer role. AARP is working to help Americans 50 plus in New York live life to the fullest. We advocate for our members on many critical priorities. We also serve as a one-stop resource for information on the 50 plus population in New York. We offer programs and tools that help Americans age 50 plus make the best decisions about their health and financial security. We often refer to ourselves as the wise friend and fierce defender. We have 2.5 million members in New York State. We are one of the largest concentrations of AARP members in the AARP family. And as I mentioned, our focus is on the 50 plus. Just to give you a couple of very current examples in what I just mentioned in terms of advocacy, we advocate not only at the state level in Albany, we also advocate in New York City, but we also have a very large federal advocacy program. Very recently, as of just a week or so ago, we advocated very heavily on negotiating drug prices. This is something that's incorporated in the Build Back Better plan. Just to give you a sense of the scale, more than 300,000 emails were sent to members of Congress, over 9,000 phone calls. Not all from New York, but many from New York, I'm proud to say, myself included. So advocacy at the state level, we recently saw the enactment of a retirement savings plan for small businesses that will encourage workers to have a vehicle for saving for their retirement. So important as they age. In terms of community engagement, and I know a lot of this will be discussed this evening in various ways, but in terms of health, we have a lot of resources on our website, and I'll just certainly mention that it's aarp.org/health. And once you get to that website location, there are so many resources that you might find interesting in terms of thinking about your health and activities and wellness. And as far as financial security is concerned and planning for it, we have links to a website that will give you aarp.org I don't see the link at the moment, but gives you financial security retirement information, which I think is also invaluable in terms of planning for retirement if in fact you're not retired. So I think there's a wealth of information available. All of our resources are not only in English, but in Spanish as well. So we have a very broad audience, as you can imagine. And I would like to make the pitch for you to become a member if you're not already a member. I know when we receive those letters in the mail, we often toss them the first couple of times we get them, but sooner or later, I think people begin to realize that there's a lot of value in AARP membership. And if you are already a member, thank you. And it's not a very expensive proposition, but if you are a member, please consider volunteering. We have a lot of activities and we are always looking for volunteers, not only for advocacy purposes, but for so many other reasons. So consider that. And the last thing I just want to mention, which I think is really important because we often hear this, we are a nonpartisan organization. We do not have a PAC. We do not contribute to individual politicians, but we are very partisan for the issues that are important to the 50 plus. So if you're interested in an active retirement and you're looking for something that's meaningful and can contribute to your community and the well-being of 50 plus in general, please consider not only membership, but a volunteer opportunity, and there are so many. So having said that, I have the pleasure of introducing our first two speakers this evening, who are going to talk about the Nork world, as well as alternative living arrangements. Our first speaker is Sally Pinto. I'm just going to read her bio. Sally Pinto was hired by WJCS in the Yonkers Office for the Aging as program director to launch the Yonkers neighborhood naturally occurring retirement community in Northeast Yonkers, which is the first ever NNORC. And Nork, we're always familiar with. I'm not quite sure how you say NNORC. In Westchester, Sally helps seniors to age in place with a purpose by connecting them to resources, programs, and activities that enrich their lives and allow them to give back to their community. Sally Pinto has over 33 years experience in various aspects of finance, small business advising, and not-for-profit program development for seniors and children. She volunteers and advocates for children on the local, regional, and state levels. She graduated with an MBA in small business management and entrepreneurship from Baruch College, lives in Yonkers with her husband and two daughters. And let me just introduce Lisa, because I'm sure we'll go from one presentation to the other. Lisa Goldberg, since the summer of 2021, Lisa Goldberg has served as executive director of At Home on the Sound. She received a BA in psychology from Clark University, and she has an MSW from Yeshiva University with postgraduate certifications in administration and not-for-profit management from the Hunter College School of Social Work, as well as the UJA Federation of New York, Columbia University School of Business. She's worked in the nonprofit sectors her entire career, at the Central Queens Y as Director of Adult and Older Adult Services, as Director of Therapeutic Recreation, Nutrition, and Child Life at the Gay Men's Health Crisis, as Associate Executive Director at the Rosenthal Jewish Community Center in Pleasantville, and as Executive Director of Community Synagogue in Rye, Assistant at the Westchester Jewish Center in Mamaroneck, and as Executive Director at Temple Israel in Westport. We have two terrific speakers to talk about aging in place. So Sally, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Azen. Thank you, Shelley, Senator Mayer, for putting this together, and to my fellow panelists. We really appreciate this, and we really do feel, as does the Senator, that it's important with so many folks retiring early, that they know what the resources are out there. I'm gonna share my screen, attempt it. Okay, very short presentation. Okay. As was noted, the Yonkers Nork Neighborhood Naturally Occurring Retirement Community, we launched back in January of 2020. And our tagline is helping seniors age in place with a purpose. So helping them stay home, where they raise their kids, where they continue to live out their lives and on a daily basis. We are under the auspices of the Yonkers Office for the Aging and WJCS, and we are funded through a grant from the New York State Office for the Aging. We have a lot of services in the Yonkers Nork, but like I say, if you remember our tagline, that's what we're trying to do, helping seniors age in place, whether it be by providing, we have a resource specialist on staff, by providing those resources that are available all over Yonkers, by having nursing health assessments. We partner with at least 24 other organizations where we offer health and nutrition and educational seminars. We have Nork at 9, which is yoga at 9 every morning, so that folks can start off the day on a healthy note. It's important to stay healthy, to keep healthy, not only physically, but emotionally. So we also offer recreation groups like bingo, arts, music, and gardening. We can't do this all on our own. We have other organizations helping out and really providing really focused information and resources for the seniors. We launched back in 2020, and obviously the COVID hit us 6 weeks into our launch, and we realized that the seniors needed help with their isolation. What happened was, first off, everyone was locked down, but seniors couldn't see their families And one main way of communicating and reaching out to the families was reaching through the social media. So we partnered with the Wi-Fi Tech Squad, and we have our kids in Yonkers from the Yonkers Public High Schools helping them out with their technology. We offer information and assistance to the seniors. It could be anywhere from Medicare, Medicaid, HEAP, SNAP, paratransit, helping them with their applications, with housing information. So we do a lot of that resources. Just give us a call and I'll provide my information in the chat as well as on the last page of the presentation. The telephone reassurance is basically calling the seniors. How are you doing? Calling the caregivers. How are you doing? How can we help you help your family and your family members? We do a lot of monitoring and assistance as far as I have one of our partners here, two of our partners actually here with Colette Phipps, with DSPS and the TIPS program, and the Yonkers Public Library, where we offer most of our platform services, if not all of them, with their partnership and their strong partnership in the community, as there are 3 libraries in Yonkers. So we partner very strongly with the libraries in Northeast Yonkers for the seniors that we serve in Northeast Yonkers, 60+. And we also have transportation. We noticed that a lot of seniors need transportation, but even if you're also in that range, well, you know, I'm still driving, I did retire early, what else, I'd like to know what is out there. We do partner with organizations that take on volunteers, mentors, for example, in literacy. So we do that, we still do have that connection to volunteers as well. And if need be, if there is a homebound senior, if you're a relative, a caregiver, a neighbor, please tell them about the different services that we offer, including home delivered meals through the Yonkers Office for the Aging. So like I said, we have different things going on. We have the bingo, which is just one of our activities. Healthy aging, we have different programs along with the hospitals, New York Presbyterian and St. John's Riverside Hospital, that offer very on point educational seminars to our communities. We have our daily yoga, including body, mind, fitness. It's just a sample there. And again, Wi-Fi Tech Squad. So if there is anyone who needs assistance with their technology, at least we can help them out and they can be reach out to their family members. So that's our my contact information. Again, you can give us a call, 914-391-1323, or you could email me at sally.pinto@yonkersny.gov. And again, we're here for the community, whether you be a caregiver or a senior, or even thinking about what's coming up next. Give us a call or give Senator Shelley Mayer's office a call and she will direct you to my office. Thank you again to you, and thank you again to President Assen for being here and helping us out as well. Thank you.
As Leo said, my name is Lisa Goldberg. I'm the Executive Director of At Home on the Sound. Thank you very much to Senator Mayer and to Leo Hassan for having us here this evening. At Home on the Sound is part of the Village to Village Network. We're an aging in place organization whose goal is to provide services to help people in Larchmont, Mamaroneck, and Rhinebeck age in place in their own homes, having security, comfort, and services to make life more manageable. Specifically, we have 2 kinds of membership. You can be an associate member and participate in social, recreational, and educational programming. Our full membership includes transportation to medical appointments, tech support, grocery shopping, changing a light bulb in your home, things of that nature. What At Home on the Sound provides is similar to what villages across America provide. The Village to Village Network began in Beacon, Massachusetts, by a group of committed grassroots volunteers who said they wanted to stay in their own homes and be able to help each other neighbor to neighbor. So I'm going to put our website in the chat for anyone interested in more about our services in Larchmont, Mamaroneck, and Rhinebeck. Also, we're currently hosting a virtual series called Getting Smarter About Getting Older. This is a free virtual series. If you visit our website, www.athomeonthesound.org. Again, I'll put it in the chat momentarily. You can find out about this free virtual program that anyone can register for. And as we do in our work at Home on the Sound, we're promoting ways to age in place in safety, security, and good health. Thank you.
That was fantastic and an example of the different kinds of models out there. Just to clarify, in the Nork model, in both of these models, you're staying in your home, you're staying in your community, but you're adding in these services to provide support, particularly if you have limitations or if you've particularly given the isolation factor that was mentioned earlier. So the whole thrust here is you're staying home, and yet you're staying home engaged, connected, participatory. And so thank you both Sally and Lisa for describing these models, which are slightly different, but again, deal with being at home. And next, we're going to go to the services available through the Westchester Library System. Sally mentioned how closely they work with the Yonkers Public Library. But I know from my work here in the Senate and previously in the Assembly, the Westchester Library System is a vast resource that frankly is underutilized in my opinion. And so we have Krishna Brodagan is an outreach services programmer at the Westchester Library System, servicing 38 member libraries across Westchester County. Library outreach is primarily concerned with making library resources more accessible to populations with special needs or barriers, like seniors, people with educational needs, people returning from incarceration, people with disabilities, and so on. Krishna comes to the job with a background in public health, which is exactly the right thing for us here, which manifests in the library system's participation in county-wide collaboratives and efforts to connect people with the resources and information they need to advocate for themselves. So thank you for joining us, Krishna. And let's see, Emily, can we make Krishna front and center here? Let's see if we can. Or you can begin, Krishna, and I'm sure that we will get out. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here with all my fellow panelists. And thank you, Sally, for involving the library and everything you guys are doing with the Nork. There's really some great partnerships and things coming out of that. So I'm glad that we mentioned the public health part in the intro, because a lot of people question why I found my way to the libraries with that type of background. But really, I'm here to tell you about some of the things that the library does outside of books, some of the social supports and programs and collaborations that we engage in to bring resources to members of the community. So Westchester Library System represents and serves 38 libraries, top to bottom, all the way across the county. We share resources between the libraries, and we help them reach out and do this type of informative work. This is usually in the presentation where I would ask the crowd for a show of hands of how many people have library cards, but I think you can understand, with the panelists it works out, but you can understand that's difficult here. So I just want to list 3 things about library cards and the libraries in general. Library cards, materials, and programs are free to you. You can get your free library card anywhere you live, work, or go to school in Westchester County. And your library card works at any library throughout the county. So oftentimes I expect those things to be common knowledge, but sometimes, people aren't aware that the things at the library are there for free, or they aren't aware that they can get their card for free. And if you have any trouble at all getting that library card, accessing library resources, please reach out to us. I'll put my contact information in the chat at the end. But if you want to shoot me an email, you can reach me at outreach@WLSMAIL.org. And what I'm going to do now is send an attachment through the chat. And this will be just a little handout that I've put together with some of the websites and resources that we have to offer. And I really just want to pick out a few things that are especially relevant to people who are retired, looking at retirement and beyond. So we want to position ourselves to be a resource for you to stay engaged and informed in your communities. And that manifests in a couple different ways. In the traditional library sense, we're still offering ebooks, audiobooks, movies, music, all of that, both in our libraries and online. And you can find out more about that at our website, which is westchesterlibraries.org, or you can visit your local library's website, which should have all of these resources as well. Aside from the entertainment side of things, we also offer databases and websites where you can research things like supplements, health conditions, medical procedures, and more. I'm sure many of you know, and some of you may have already participated in some of the online programming that the libraries have been engaging in since the pandemic. Although we're back in person now, we're still doing programs online because it's so valuable for reaching people who are busy or homebound or just otherwise can't make it into the library for a program. Especially in the colder months, this is going to be they're going to be ramping up some of their programs. So there is a calendar on the westchesterlibraries.org website where you can find all of those online programs listed together. And you're welcome to participate in one, even if it's not for your home library. If you live in Yonkers, you're welcome to participate in Chappaqua politics programs and foreign affairs programs. If you're up in Peekskill, you can participate in New Rochelle's cultural programming. The library is all about sharing. So some of the other things that I wanted to bring up, our library system and the New York State libraries both offer services and resources to help people continue reading for a lifetime, despite any visual impairments, physical impairments, cognitive impairments. We want you to still be able to enjoy reading this material and all of the benefits that brings. So I want to point out the New York State Talking Book and Braille Library. This is a program where anybody who has any kind of visual, physical, cognitive impairment that would make it difficult to handle a print book, you can get a free audio cassette player and audio cassettes sent to you through the mail, no postage involved. All you have to do is apply to this state program. The link to it is in the handout that I shared in the chat. This is a great program for anybody who is homebound. They can get these materials sent directly to them. There's no pickup process that you have to coordinate. And on top of that, if you are tech savvy, you can actually get these audiobooks straight to your phone, tablet, computer. It's basically like you've unlocked an extra ebook resource. Aside from just the materials that we offer and the resources that we offer on our websites, we also offer resources through our collaboratives. So Westchester Library System is very involved in the Senior Law Day Collaborative. And for anyone who hasn't heard of them, they do great work in this county, providing information for everything related to senior law, preparing for life after retirement. While we were once upon a time offering that in a big county-wide event annually, we've switched to offering those things online with scattered in-person events. But we have informative webinars, free consultations, and more offered through the seniorlawday.info website. Everything that has been presented is recorded, so you can access a wealth of pre-recorded webinars on there, and you can even submit a question directly to the collaborative to hear back from one of the attorneys. In connection to that, we also offer through the library system Medicare counseling. And this is great for anybody who's new to Medicare or anyone who has been on Medicare for a while and just wants to check out their options, see if there's any way that they could be saving money. We'll sit with you and we'll explain all of the tenets of this complicated system called Medicare, front to back. And that's available online, in person, through a helpline, whatever makes sense to you. Check out our seniors website, which is also in that flyer to find out more about that. So really that's just the tip of the iceberg and what the libraries are offering. We also offer support on literacy, on trying to find employment, people who are trying to get their high school diploma, all sorts of stuff for different ages. I encourage you to check out our westchesterlibraries.org website, to check out your local library. And if you have any questions about any of this, if you have any trouble getting a library card, or if you just want more information about anything that I talked about at this during this panel, please feel free to reach out. I will put my email in the chat as well, but it is outreach@wlsmail.org. And I'll give it back to the coordinator.
Krishna,
Thank you.
can I ask a few questions? And also,
Please do.
we did have a comment here too about the Nork and at Home of the Sound. The links can't be copied and don't function as links. So could you repost them, our panelists, again as a link if you can, or certainly put the correct URL? I had a question for you, Krishna. Book
Yes.
clubs and ebooks. I know seeing so many seniors who frankly read a lot more than younger people a lot of the time, that they used to go to the library every week and get a book, or they reserved a book, or they were in a book club that met in person. I know the library has done a very good job of having online book clubs and ebook learning. Can you just mention the resources available for people who really have been dependent on the library as a source of both educational and social interaction?
Yes, absolutely. So we have had our book clubs at various libraries going on throughout the pandemic. Many of them didn't stop at all. They just charged right ahead with switching to an online format. And many of them have found that the online format is something that's hard to leave now, since they've pulled in participants from around the county. In some cases, they've gotten people from around the country or around the world to participate in these things. And like you said, in terms of access to resources, many of them have started leaning more on things like our ebooks. We actually have multiple services that offer ebooks and audiobooks online. One of our most popular is Overdrive and Libby, which are part of the same company, but we also offer Hoopla, which allows you to do simultaneous borrowing. So whereas with Libby, one person can borrow a book at a time, Hoopla, multiple people can borrow the same book. It works excellent for book clubs. And with Libby and Overdrive, there are also community reads where they designate books that can be used by multiple people, and those lend themselves well to book clubs. So whether you're trying to join one at your local library or any of the other libraries in Westchester County, or if you're trying to put one together with your friends or family, those resources are a great opportunity to get the books. They're so convenient. You don't have to go and pick them up at the library or coordinate any of that. And on top of that, many of our libraries are actually moving away from just traditional ebooks. They're doing audiobook book clubs. They're doing graphic novel book clubs for adults. And they're also, in some cases, doing movie book clubs, or I guess movie clubs, film clubs, with some of the streaming services that we have, like Canopy, where you can watch streaming movies and documentaries.
Fantastic, thank you.
Could I ask Krishna a question before we move on?
Please do, yeah.
That's really an amazing resource. I had no idea of how rich and robust that was. I had two questions. One is, do you have links with other library systems in other counties, not that are, that may not have the same resources that you have available in Westchester, and possibly even in other states that might not have that? And the other question, given all the technology and the resources, do you provide some sort of a distance learning capability? Almost, I was going to say college at home, but it's not quite the same thing. But are there those kinds of resources available as well?
Yes. So with the other library systems around the county, while we don't share things like ebooks and audiobooks, we do share other resources like our programs that we our support services and the programs that the library operates. So things like our high school equivalency program, our job search coach, will often work with patrons, people from around the state, if the case arises. And we also, something that the library offers is all of the supports that I mentioned specifically catered to people who are in reentry or returning to Westchester County after being away for a certain amount of time. So we help people get resettled here. And in that case, we often are collaborating with other counties, other towns. In regards to the educational side of it, we do have online programs and tools that we use for that high school equivalency program, for our reading tutoring program, things that people can do self-paced, but they can still check in with a learning coach from the library system to kind of keep things on track and keep things rolling, and so that they can see the progress that they're making. We also offer a lot of self-directed services like the resource that we have, lynda.com, which you can find on westchesterlibraries.org, and your local library's website should have it too. Lynda.com, I think recently rebranded to LinkedIn Learning. They offer video tutorials on all sorts of stuff. It's anything from the basics of tech, so learning how to use your email or a specific device, or learning how to use Microsoft Word, anywhere up to hobbies and business endeavors. So if you have any interest in starting a small business or some sort of e-commerce activity or something, you can actually go to LinkedIn Learning with your library card, sign in, and then you have access to these full courses where you can learn all of the basics of running your own business, of learning how to do video editing, how to do 3D modeling, photography. The range is really wide. So, that's actually a great resource for people in retirement. If you're looking for a hobby, or if you're just trying to learn more about potential hobbies, that's a great place to start.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all that information. What
Yeah,
a
thank
wonderful
you.
resource.
And one more thing I'd like to point out, looking forward to the spring, really excited for the return of AARP tax prep, which I know will be provided in a number of our libraries and other locations around the county. So looking forward to that.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you. So our next speaker is going to talk about legal and financial planning, and I'm going to introduce Eric Churches. Eric Churches received his law degree in 1989 from Fordham University School of Law. In 2005, he moved his law practice to Port Jefferson, New York, after having practiced for many years in New York City and in White Plains. Mr. Churches counsels clients in the preparation of wills, trusts, powers of attorney, healthcare proxies, living wills, and estate planning strategies. He recognizes that each client's situation is unique and does not embrace a one-size-fits-all approach. So I ask Eric to talk to us.
Okay, well, thank you, Leo, and thank you, Senator Mayer, and thank both of you for sponsoring this evening's seminar or webinar. In the interest of brevity, I've cherry-picked 3 topics that I think are really important to discuss and for everybody to be aware of. First, I'm going to talk about probate versus non-probate assets. Then I'm going to talk about advanced directives, which are healthcare proxies, powers of attorney. And then lastly, a topic that often gets overlooked, and that's the storage of the documents themselves. So first, probate versus non-probate assets. Probate asset, speaking simply, is an asset that is controlled or governed by the language in someone's will. So when you pass away, a will has to be admitted to probate. You nominate an executor, only the court can appoint an executor, and that's part of the probate process. So time has to elapse and a legal process has to take place in order for your assets to reach the intended beneficiaries through probate. Then there are non-probate assets. Non-probate asset is an asset that is either jointly owned with somebody with rights of survivorship. So very often couples will own a home together, and upon the passing of the first spouse, it will go to the second spouse non-probate because it's jointly owned with rights of survivorship. But then upon the passing of the second spouse, unless something has been done in the interim, it is a probate asset. So that's an important distinction. The other way to avoid probate, or another asset that is non-probate, is an asset that has a payable designated beneficiary payable on death. Typical classic example of that would be life insurance, 401ks, IRAs, 403bs. Very often retirement assets are a client's largest or one of their largest assets, and they think that the will governs, but it doesn't. The designation beneficiary will supersede the language in the will. So it's an important distinction. It's important to go and look at your designated beneficiaries and make sure that they're still appropriate. I've had many situations where somebody will start work and 45 years later, they've been married for 40 years, and I tell them to look at their designated beneficiaries, and lo and behold, a parent who is long deceased is still listed as their designated beneficiary. So really important to take heed of your non-probate assets. And lastly, there's also trusts. A trust is a way to avoid probate. And if an asset is in a trust, it's administered outside of the court. The probate process does not have to take place. The trustee is someone that you have appointed. So they don't need court approval in order to get the legal authority to act. You've already given it to them. So really important to keep track of which assets of yours are probate, governed by your will, or non-probate, governed by some other document or instrument. And every couple of years, as I said, periodically take these documents out, make sure they still read properly, make sure your assets are still going in the intended way to the intended beneficiaries. When you have non-probate assets, often you lose the ability to put conditions on those, how those assets are distributed as well. So it's important to take into consideration if you have beneficiaries who have special needs, if you have beneficiaries who have certain substance abuse issues perhaps, or are minors under the age of 18. New York law says when you're 18, you're an adult. Not really true in my definition, but legally you're an adult at 18. So you would have a minors trust set up for a beneficiary who's under that age. And that's something also to keep into consideration. Moving on to the issue of advanced directives. Advanced directives is a broad term. It encompasses someone's healthcare proxy, living will, power of attorney. These are critically important documents for anybody, especially seniors. Having these documents in place, they're empowering documents. Very often people will look at it in the opposite direction, thinking, well, I'm giving up a lot of power, I'm giving up a lot of rights. To the contrary, these are empowering documents because you're given the opportunity to select the people that you trust, that you want to act with respect to your healthcare decision-making, with respect to your legal affairs, with respect to your financial affairs, in the event, God forbid, there should ever come a time where you're not able to make those types of decisions for yourself. So it is far better for you to take the time to select those agents who are going to act on your behalf, because catastrophically, if you do not have these documents in place, what happens is, in the event that you should lack legal capacity at some point in time, your family, friends, loved ones will have to apply to court for what's called guardianship. And we've seen guardianship in the news a lot recently with Britney Spears, with Peter Max. It's a very time-consuming, often conflicting, often adversarial process. You can avoid that very simply by taking some time and creating a healthcare proxy, a living will, and a power of attorney. Now, what are these documents? A healthcare proxy is a document that appoints agents to act on your behalf if and only if you are deemed incapacitated. Incapacitation can be temporary, it can be long-term catastrophic, but you're selecting people, one person at a time in descending order, who's going to make decisions for you, including up to end-of-life decision-making. Living will. Living will is what? What are your wishes? It's a guideline, it's a roadmap for your healthcare agents. It helps give them insight into what your wishes are so that they can follow them. It's also a great way to avoid family conflict. If you spell out your wishes, there's no gray area, or little gray area, I should say. You've taken control of the situation. Really important. I can't stress it enough. And lastly, the power of attorney. Power of attorney is a document where you're authorizing people that you trust to act as if you were there yourself with respect to any of your legal or financial affairs. Again, it's a very powerful document, but it's incredibly important for anybody to have, especially as one starts to age. You never know, God forbid, if these documents will have to be used. So those are what I think are the fundamentals of anyone's estate plan. And those are the documents actually while you're alive. People think estate planning, they think upon their death, not necessarily so. A lot of these estate planning focus is for your benefit while you are alive. Now, where do you store the documents? That's a topic that is very often overlooked. I am not a big fan of safety deposit boxes in banks. Very often people will put their documents there. It meets 2 out of the 3 criteria. It's safe, it's secure, but it's not accessible outside of banking hours, and it's only accessible by people who have legal access to the box. So make sure your documents are safe, secure, and accessible. Generally, I like to recommend a home safe, a lockbox, someplace where you can get access to it, but more importantly, where your agents know how to locate and find the documents, because having the documents is half the battle. Making sure the people who need to get access to them in the event of a crisis is the other half. So make sure your agents who you've selected know where the lockbox is, home safe, they know the combination or where the key is located. Really critically important. What I also like to recommend is that everybody put together a to-go bag. Could be a Ziploc bag, put it on the side of your refrigerator with a magnet, and inside the to-go bag should be your healthcare proxy, should be list of medications, and a list of your doctors. It's really important to be able to find these documents in the event of an emergency. So having a to-go bag helps. I have a friend who likes to tell a story. He had a client who had a pocketbook fetish. She had 157 pocketbooks. She had 157 copies of her healthcare proxy. So she never left home without it. Perhaps a little overkill, but a good lesson to be learned. Have multiple copies. You can put them in your glove compartment if you're still driving in your car, hand them out to your agents and bring them to your doctor. So that's what I would like to focus on. Also, lastly, a letter of instruction for your family. If you haven't told them where the documents are, at least have a letter that's can be found where they know where your important information is, where your banking is, where your documents are, who your attorney is, who your financial advisor is, who your accountant is. This is a gift to your family, and it's a gift to yourself because it'll make the process so much easier for everybody. So generally be prepared. Those were the 3 topics I picked in the interest of brevity. So I hope I've come in under the clock, and I turn it back over to Leo Asen. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. That was really fantastic. I just would say that sadly during COVID, the issue of having a healthcare proxy was very important in many families, including mine, where there was someone who really felt that they spoke on behalf of the person who was incapable of communicating, particularly about end-of-life issues. I mean, I think we saw firsthand how important these documents were during a time when people who we did not expect would get very sick, got very sick. So thank you, that was really excellent. I can't tell you.
Thank you very much.
So next we have Colette Phipps, and here she comes, there she is. And Colette Phipps' human service background spans approximately 40 years. Oh my goodness, that's like the rest of us. She presently serves as a director of program development for the Westchester County Department of Senior Programs and Services, where she conducts research and analysis on trends relating to the senior citizen population and develops new programs to address the needs of these residents as well as their caregivers. Ms. Phipps also provides oversight of several major initiatives and projects sponsored by the Senior Programs and Services, and its 501c3, the Westchester Public-Private Partnership for Aging Services. She is Executive Director of the nationally award-winning Westchester County Livable Communities, a Vision for All Ages initiative. Ms. Phipps is a licensed Master of Social Work, a certified dementia practitioner with a special advanced social worker in gerontology certification from the National Association of Social Workers. It's really an honor and a pleasure to have Colette Phipps here talk about some of the programs she runs and the Department of Senior Programs and Services of the county, run by County Executive George Latimer.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I am so impressed with these panelists. And even though they're our partners and I talk to them almost daily, every time I hear about what they're offering, I become more and more proud of what's happening in Westchester County. So I want to thank you, Senator Mayer and Leo, for this gracious invitation to raise awareness about the diverse program offerings that are available for seniors and their caregivers. I don't know what happened with my video, but I'm back again. All right. And supported by the Department of Senior Programs and Services. So one thing we know for sure, people are living longer. We know not only in the United States, but globally. So what do we do with this information? We take advantage of what Dr. Robert Butler said a long time ago, and he aptly called it the longevity revolution. Westchester is a county of over 1 million people. It has a robust older persons population. And about every 1 in 5 persons is 60 years of age and older. Of particular note here is that the 85 plus is the fastest growing cohort of all. In terms of caregivers, we have an estimated 55,000 caregivers here in Westchester caring for loved ones that are 60 plus. And Leo, I am proud to report that Westchester County was one of the first 7 members nationwide in the AARP network of age-friendly communities of the United Nations World Health Organization. So our County Department of Senior Programs and Services is what we call an area agency on aging. In New York State, there's about 59 of them, but there's also 1,200 public and private organizations that provide services that empower older adults and their families. We're policy-driven, and we work under the Older Americans Act, which was originally enacted in 1965. The Older American Act supports a range of home and community-based services because we do want seniors to remain in the community as long as possible. So Meals on Wheels, nutrition programs, in-home support services, transportation, legal services, elder abuse prevention, and caregiver support. And these programs, of course, help the seniors to stay as independent as possible in their homes and in their communities. But the Older Americans Act also does something else. It helps to avoid hospitalizations and possibly, and we know that nursing homes are good, we need them, but not for everybody, okay? So these kinds of programs help to save federal and state funds that otherwise would be spent on this kind of care. So this demographic transformation keeps us very busy at DSPS, especially our case management department. And I, like Eric, had to cherry pick some things because we do so much. And so I've been asked to speak to you specifically about this particular and important area of our work. So when we think about the various concerns that arise as we grow older, cognitive issues, emotional problems, mental health issues, social, physical, caregiving issues, housing, transportation, we think about our case management department. Our case managers help clients to achieve wellness, autonomy through advocacy, We also provide comprehensive assessments, planning, communication, health education and engagement, resource management, and service facilitation. Our case managers are who you can go to check on eligibility for certain programs and services. And luckily, they are real people. They are not recordings, and they will help to guide you along the way. In this time of COVID, our department has done, I think, a tremendous job adapting, accepting, and also achieving. In other words, we have tried very hard to pivot to meet the needs of a population that's had to face many, many challenges. And I am pleased to report that contacts with our residents are in the tens of thousands. We seek to keep our eye on the prize, and that prize is a senior who is living their very best life. We also want you to remember that this aging network here in Westchester County is a robust partnership of organizations and agencies established to advocate and to assist older persons. So I want to just say this: if you have concerns, you have questions, please call our case management department. I can put that number in the chat, but I will tell you now. It's 914-813-6300 and ask to speak to a case manager. Your case will be quickly assigned and you will be talking to the best of the best. Now, if you'll allow me, I'd like to tell you a brief story that leads into my second topic. And that story is about the Westchester Public-Private Partnership for Aging Services. We like to call it the PPP. So about 28 years ago, our commissioner, I think everyone knows, May Carpenter, she is absolutely the best. She is our visionary. She came up with the idea to establish a not-for-profit. So this not-for-profit has allowed us to raise funds that allow us to help even more seniors here in Westchester County. Some of our programs from the department are means tested, which means that some people are not able to access these programs. We want everybody in Westchester County to live the best life that they can. And so we do have this not-for-profit and we do raise money. It was a brilliant idea, I think, and it really has helped us to gain the support of so many of our public and private entities. The PPP was born, and through the PPP, an enthusiastic coalition of government, of business, of volunteer services, agencies, and consumers make things happen. We try to recruit corporations and individuals to contribute funds, to underwrite some of our specific programs, or donate in-kind support to programs for Westchester County seniors and their caregivers. I want to tell you about one of those programs. I'd love to tell you about all of them, but I don't have the time. So I'm picking out our Livable Communities Caregiver Coaching Program. You said a lot of people have retired. Become a caregiver coach. This is the L3C program, and it trains volunteers to help family caregivers better care for an older adult or a disabled person. It's one-on-one support, and that one-on-one support that our coaches provide enable those caregivers to make more informed decisions to meet the many challenges and responsibilities they face. As an aside, I will just tell you that I get caregivers every day. I will never forget the call that I received from a caregiver once, and she screamed out the word help. I mean, in this, earth sort of shattering tone. And of course, we had to get her help. So we know that caregivers are carrying a significant amount of burden, but they also think about what they're doing as rewarding. So we seek the support of anyone looking to make a difference in the quality of life for people in their communities in a cutting edge way. You don't have to have caregivers experience. However, we do look for our candidates to be optimistic, and we also want them to be empathetic. We also want our volunteers to remember that they are not substitutes for professionals in the field. So that's very, very important. We developed this program with Fordham's University's Ravison Center on Aging. Our curriculum is manualized, and the coaches cover topics like understanding the aging process and challenges caregivers face. They also learn specific coaching techniques. The L3C program has won many awards for innovation, and it has been replicated around the country. Let me just say to you that our caregivers are important to us, and that these caregiver coaches that we have that are volunteers, and we have lots of them, are stabilizing forces and they're sounding boards. And I'd like to also add the coaches save taxpayers money also, because they help to avoid and delay the need for an older person or an older person to be prematurely institutionalized. Livable Communities is another huge program that we have. So I'm telling you, come on down, okay? Please come on down, be a volunteer for Livable Communities, be a part of our Livable Communities connections, our Livable Communities collaboratives, our village approach, our chronic disease self-management program. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but I will put my number and email in the chat, and please just be in contact with me, and I'm happy to share that information. Thank you so much.
Wow, what a wonderful presentation. So much detail. What a marvelous Department of Social Services. It's incredible. And you mentioned caregiving, and I couldn't resist for New York State. And these numbers are staggering. At some point during the year, we've estimated, AARP has estimated that there are over 2.5 million caregivers, 2.5 million just here in New York State. And you mentioned the economic importance of caregiving. And again, we've estimated that the unpaid contribution of family caregivers is over $30 billion, $30 billion. And we couldn't afford in our long-term services and support system, our long-term care system, we couldn't possibly afford that kind of a support. So family caregivers are treasures, and we advocate so much in Albany and federally for caregiver support. There's so much going on now, and thank you so much for all you're doing for caregivers. It's just
My pleasure.
It's just a marvelous thing and so valuable. So let me turn to our last panelist, which is who's Angela Katz, and she's going to talk about physical activity and exercise. And let me just read Angela's bio. Angela is a fall prevention expert who delivers high energy keynote presentations that motivate and engage audiences to leverage their focus and pay attention to what matters most in their lives, staying active and independent. She has spoken to YMCAs, YWCAs, senior centers, libraries, schools, assisted living facilities, and hospitals to stay active and prevent falls. Angela hosted workshops providing a fall toolkit and demonstration Tai Chi to the lower Hudson Valley County communities. She gained her knowledge working at a level 1 trauma hospital as a trauma injury prevention outreach coordinator, and she is certified as a trauma injury prevention specialist. Angela is a certified instructor Tai Chi for arthritis and balance and older adult balance and strength training. She's passionate about helping individuals live a quality of life and stay independent. Angela, can't wait for your presentation.
Okay, I know we're running out of time, but thank you both for putting this webinar together. So much information and very informative for everyone. So as we are retiring, I wish I had known all this when I was in my 50s, but as we're retiring, there are certain things different about exercise. And we all think exercise is about getting out there, getting on your bike, or joining a Pilates class, or doing Zumba, or hopping in the pool. But what we really need to concentrate on is mobility, strength, and balance. After age 55, we lose 3% of our muscular mass of our body. So that's why as we age, we slump over and we aren't able to hold over our shoulders back. And as that happens, then we have controlled falling as we walk. We lose our flexibility in our legs and we start to shuffle. But the good thing is, and it's great news, is that we know that we can regain all of this, all of it. And so I always want people, if they're going to retire, yeah, stay with all your regular activities, but let's concentrate on a few keynote things. Let's concentrate daily, 10 minutes a day. You go in the bathroom, you're brushing your teeth, you balance on one leg, and you're holding with your pinky. If you're not good enough, then eventually you're taking your hands off and you got that up for 30 seconds, your leg up. Just like a child, when you put a baby on the ground and they can't stand up, you prop pillows around them. Then one day you go by, they don't need the pillows. Next day, they're standing up in the crib. And then the next thing, they're standing up and they're detaching themselves from furniture. And then they walk. Balance is progressive, but we lose our balance. If you don't work at it, any of our skills, we're going to lose it. So you need to practice balance. It's not about going out and doing all the other exercise. Practice balance, because that's going to keep you on your feet. 1 out of 3, 65 years and older will fall. It's a known fact. All right. We spent $50 billion in healthcare cost last year. All right. We have an aging society of 54 million seniors going to be in the US 65 years and older. And every 13 seconds, someone falls, and every 19 seconds, someone dies. Balance can keep us upright. Now, the other component that we want to think about, since we're losing muscle mass, is that we can regain our strength. They know that. So if you're going to stay active and you want to stay fit, but most important, you want to stay independent and be able to get your socks on, get out of bed, get out of the shower, get off the toilet, get out of the car. All those are important key things. And so we can regain by just doing some simple exercises in your home, and that can regain your strength. 10 minutes on your strength training, 10 minutes on your balance training. Then the last thing I would say for you to do is about flexibility. If we can move our tendons and our ligaments and our muscles and be able to bend over, squat down, then we can operate our life without having pain. We also build confidence, but also when we start to fall, we're able to catch ourselves. We have the ability to freely move in the external environment. Our senses are going to be more aware of all of it. Our eyes, our ears, and our sensories of our proprioceptors. And what will happen is that when you go out for a hike and you feel the ground's a little uneven, your body adjusts. But we have to practice those skills. If you are coming to a curb, you got to know to pick your leg up. If you have leg weaknesses, you need to talk to your doctor, because that's how we fall. We need to really, really look at these 3 factors in order to prevent falls, because falls are not going away. It's just going to increase as we go along. The last thing I would say for all of us, if no matter what age, even our kids in school need this. And it's been a very stressful time with COVID. And we need moving meditation. And that's why I would say Tai Chi. Tai Chi is like you see the reflection in the water and you see your face, but underneath there's a moving current that flows underneath. And that is where it's going to be strengthening your internal muscles, your deep stabilizers, supporting your spine. But at the same time, it's going to be giving you the confidence to move and transition your foot and weight transfers, you go sideways stepping. It puts you in positions that you've not gone into instead of just allowing gravity to move you and momentum. This is you doing it by moving slowly. And I know everybody wants to move around fast, but it's the key of strength building, balance, and doing Tai Chi is moving slowly. And the last thing that I would say also is since we're talking about early retirement, stay on the floor. We get afraid to get on the floor. Get on that floor. Practice getting up. Practice using your core to get up. Don't lose the floor. It's really an opportunity to get down, to play with the grandkids, to play with the pets. Practice getting down. How can you get up? How many do you need? All both your hands, your knees. How good are you getting up off the floor? But practice getting on the floor and staying on the floor. And if you can't get on the floor, you can do your stretches on your bed. The bed works just like the floor, but at least it's a little higher to get off. But those are the most important factors I can give you today, is focus on not so much of getting out and pounding the pavement, riding the bike, or doing those things. These three elements: strength, balance, and range of motion. And that will help you as you get older, and you'll be able to live a quality life of independence and be able to take care of yourself. So I want to say you take all the classes you want, but that's the key thing. And you could do it at home. And that's what I'm so passionate about, is that we are all restricted on time. So do it at home, practice it. And that's what I give you today. Thank you.
Where can we get information about all that? How do we find out more about those specific exercises?
Definitely. Well, I just did a workshop for ARP today, and I think we had about 125 people that listened to it. And I'm going to be doing a Tai Chi workshop next week with ARP, and I'm going to be doing a kitchen sink workout on those exercises also.
So Angela, if you go on the if you're a member of AARP and you go onto the website, you can get access to your classes?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, how fantastic. And so interesting to me that you stress these three principles, not minimizing motion and going walking and swimming and all that, but these are the most essential to focus on from your perspective.
Correct. And the one thing I want to talk about real quick here is walking is great. If you can get out and walk at least a half hour a day is wonderful. We don't want to forget about cardiovascular. But one thing we have to remember about, as we age, and if we don't have the flexibility, we don't have the balance, and we don't have the strength, then we're shuffling our walk, and we're stumbling, and we're doing controlled falling, and that's not benefiting us. So spend the time getting all the other elements in place and walk like a ballerina, walk like an athlete. Put the crown on your head, pull your shoulders back, and walk.
I love it. I love it. Emily, can you bring all the panelists back for a number of questions? What a fantastic panel. I have to thank Rachel Estra for putting together so much good information. And it will be available on YouTube for those who haven't seen all of it. Yes, shout out to May Carpenter, the most fantastic commissioner of so many years. Really terrific. So here's one question that I thought might be for, let's see who it is. Medicare is mandatory at age 65, I think, unless you have other health insurance. What if Social Security monthly amount is low and a hardship when Medicare is deducted? How to get help paying for Part B premium? Colette, can you call one of your case managers on that kind of a question?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They have, as a matter of fact, we have someone, Diane Punai, who is a specialist on that. So definitely.
So you could call the Westchester County Department of
Right. And did I put it in the chat? But I will put it in the chat.
Yes, you did. 914-813-6441.
That's my number, but
okay.
Another number, 6300. Okay.
6300. Okay.
Definitely.
914-813-6100.
6300.
6300. Okay.
Right. I'm putting it in the chat now.
Very good. And here's another question. And this is a question for Eric. A representative from the New York Health Department mentioned medical orders for life-sustaining treatment several months ago. Does this form replace the healthcare proxy?
It does not replace it, rather it supplements it. It's a MOLST, which is the acronym MOLST directive. And that really, it has to be done in coordination with your physician. And it's really specifically for end-of-life decision-making. But it is definitely something that anyone should educate themselves about, look into what's called a MOLST directive. But yeah, it's specifically end-of-life.
How do you spell that word?
The acronym is MOLST.
Oh, most. Okay.
MOLST.
Okay, understood that.
Sure.
And I had a question for Sally, just to clarify, are the services for your Nork limited to Northeast Yonkers? If you live in Southwest Yonkers, are you not eligible? I know you could go to the Yonkers Office of the Aging no matter where you live, but the Nork compilation of services, is that restricted to Northeast Yonkers?
The services for the case management, transportation is Northeast Yonkers, but we have activities every day, and those are not limited. Anyone can join. So anyone can join our activities. When we do them in person at the libraries, anyone can join those activities. If you are living in South, like you said, if you are living in other parts of Yonkers, we have Yonkers Office for the Aging and WJCS to cover those case management and services, but even the nurses, all of Yonkers. So it's we all work together, and if we don't have it, someone else will. But definitely join our activities. Anyone can join. We've had people from Spain join, so we're pretty good.
As I was looking at questions, you know, one question, is there a lawyer who could help you set up the living will? And I know, Eric, we're not giving legal advice or referring, but what is the right resource for someone who's looking for a lawyer who can help in this area? Can they go to the state bar or the county bar?
Either county or state bar should be sufficient. Usually a better resource than just scanning the internet looking for somebody. But somebody who's active in the bar associations is usually the best place to look.
In part because the law in this area does change over time. I know that myself, and someone who practices and specializes in this and is active in the bar association, either the Westchester County Bar or the New York State Bar or another bar association, is more likely to be highly engaged and knowledgeable about changes as they occur, either by statute or case law.
Yeah, in fact, the New York State statutory power of attorney just changed recently on June 13th. So doesn't mean if you have an old one, it's null and void, but the form has changed and the effect has changed a little bit. So the other thing is, even if you have these documents, you should take them out, dust them off, and make sure that they're still compliant with updated law.
Leo, do you have some questions or questions you want to ask of the panelists? We have a
I
few
think
minutes.
I think this is a caregiving question, so I'm going to direct it, I guess, to Colette. So we retired early, but my wife got sick and now needs more and more help to get through the day. My kids have their own lives. I need help taking care of her, but don't know where to go. How can I find someone to help and get help paying for it if it's more than I can afford?
Leo, that person can call me. My number is, certainly in the chat, but also we have a wonderful partnership with Phelps Northwell Health Program. It's called CARES Connections, and they're offering 4 components for caregivers. One of those components is a caregiver navigator. So we've made a lot of referrals. We have that partnership, with Phelps Hospital Northwell Health, and that caregiver navigator can certainly work with that person.
Thank you. I have another question. Actually, I think this one might be for Krishna. I think it a little bit on what you talked about. My parents don't use the internet, so they asked me to watch this for them. how can they get connected with the services and programs they need?
That's a great question. So, if you go into any of your local libraries and ask about these things, they should be able to put you in touch by phone with any of these other resources. We are happy to meet you at a library and walk you through some of these things online on a computer there. And the libraries are also dipping their toes in things like computer and hotspot loaning. So, if you have some tech savviness, but you don't have a device at home, it's worth reaching out to your local library to see what they're up to. If they can't get you a device, then the library system is happy to help you get a Chromebook on your hands. If you're not so familiar with tech, then that might not be the right solution for you, but reaching out to your library is a great way to get some of those services there in the building.
Thank you.
I would just add that, during the height of COVID, so many resources were dependent on people being able to use the internet and to file a claim, including unemployment and others. And we fought in my office with every state agency on behalf of seniors and others who either did not have or did not have knowledge of how to use a computer. It's one thing to make it the default, but we have to make other pathways. And we had many seniors at the height of COVID who sought to get, or others were just trying to get additional benefits that the state made available. And they were really very challenging unless you knew how to use the internet, file a claim, or you even had a computer at home, as you remember at the beginning when school went fully remote. So we've been arguing that, and I'm very hopeful with Governor Hochul that there's a better acknowledgement by the agencies that New York is a diverse place. There are people with different abilities, and it is presumptuous to think everyone can jump in and navigate a computer for getting a basic benefit to which they are entitled by law. So we'll continue to press that issue. But I know there have been in some communities, I think in Rye, high school students who are available, get together in a club in the high school available to help seniors who have challenges with computer and tech access. So, but I do think it's something we clearly should follow up on, and based on your question, Leo.
Yeah, let me add one other dimension to that internet question, if I could. And I think this is really important. And that's the scams that seniors are often subject to by virtue of being on the internet and really not being cognizant of passwords and phishing attempts and all the other things that scammers are doing. So what I wanted to mention, again, looking at AARP resources, if you look at our website and you put in Fraud Watch, FRAUDWATCH, Fraud Watch, you can sign up for the free Fraud Watch service. Doesn't cost anything. You don't have to be a member. And you receive through your cell phone or other means alerts of scam activities that's in your area. And there's other things other resources that seniors might want to be aware of and how to protect themselves. So, once the money's gone and it's out of the bank account, I'm sure Eric can talk to it, it's gone, and that's the end of it. So what you want to do, obviously, is to prevent that from happening. So yeah, I take your point, Senator, about not everyone should be on the internet for entitlements and benefits. But if you are, we really need to keep people safe.
I'd like to point out two other valuable resources that we often refer to and refer people towards related to scams. And one is the State Attorney General's office. They have a lot of really good information, great publications that they put out. And for Medicare scams, specifically the Senior Medicare Patrol in New York State and also the Medicare Rights Center are great resources there for both learning about scams and also reporting scams and getting help in dealing with scams that you may have been subjected to.
There is a question here. It's more of a comment, and I think it says on the question of fraud, a lot of physicians are using telehealth to scam questions. Scam seniors. I think, if I had to guess, one of the concerns is that since telehealth became a billable service during COVID at a higher an accentuated program because people couldn't go to the doctor. There's some concern, I suspect, that patients are being encouraged to use telehealth when it is not appropriate. I'm not aware of that, but if that's the case, we should complain directly to the State Department of Health about any doctor that is licensed in New York State that someone believes that it occurred, because there is very much an investigatory arm of the Department of Health to review licenses of any physician that may have, is alleged to have engaged in that. So if someone feels that happened. But we didn't talk about some things, as you mentioned, we certainly didn't talk about senior scams, and Gary Brown, the head of the Attorney General's office in Westchester, is a fantastic expert and resource on scams. We didn't talk about this telehealth, and it's corrected to me that these doctors are in Arizona and California and perhaps preying on people in New York. That's something, please let me know about that. I'll be glad to pass that along to my sister state regulators. And Angela Katz, is there a good book covering your topics? You really did provoke some new thinking, I think, among all of us. So,
What was the question?
is there a book, a good book that covering your topics the way you described them?
There's a book, Aging After 50. I don't know the author. It's in my bedroom. I could probably go grab it, but it's called Aging After 50, and just the changes that take place in our body of clearly understanding where we need to go. It would be something I would look at. Also, make sure that, before you start any exercise program, that you speak to your doctor, and maybe also when you go to your physician, make sure they do a fall prevention screening. Everyone should do, it's just like a well check. And so everyone should have a fall prevention screening so they can see if you have any weakness areas that they need to be, risk factors that need to be accounted for. So that would be the start right there.
Leo, would you like to say any closing words?
I want to thank you, Senator, for inviting AARP to participate. I want to also thank all of our panelists. It's really been an interesting and informative hour and a half, and I've learned a lot. I've taken a bunch of notes. There's always something new to learn, and there's always stuff to follow up on. So I want to thank everyone for all you're doing for our seniors in Westchester and New York. And again, thank you, Senator, for having us. Appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. Thank you to the AARP. As I told Leo earlier, when those red shirts come into my office in Albany about some issue, they bring passion, determination, and a sense of volunteerism, which really makes them a very unique group of advocates. I encourage anyone who wants to get involved. It's a wonderful opportunity to really make a difference in New York State's laws. And thank you to our panelists for such really thoughtful additional information. Thank you for volunteering to spend an hour and a half with us. And as I mentioned, this will be available. Thank you to my staff for doing a great job of putting this together. Thank you to our 2 ASL interpreters and to our 2 Spanish translators, and making sure that this program is available to everyone in our community, and that we note that we're going to really make it our business to let information be spread widely in our community through using translators and sign language interpreters. So it's a pleasure. Thank you all. Hope you have a good night. Thank you to all who watched. Thank you all again. I will put my email in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to my office, anyone. We're glad to help anyone with any problem that may arise. And good night to all.